So a country based on lies, like a family based on lies, like an individual life based on lies, cannot succeed. In fact, it's hellish, as all of us have experienced in our lying. And so the only way out of this is to stop lying, is to tell the truth now, probably 63 years after we should have started telling the truth, but it's never too late to tell the truth now about everything, because it's never as painful as you think it will be. It's actually an act of liberation. In fact, it's the only real act of liberation. Telling the truth sets you free because the truth itself.
We're back up on JTube for a little bit, okay? Guys, I'm not going to be on here much. We'll spend a little bit of time on JTube, just to let you guys know that I'm live, and we are going to go back to Kick Only very soon. So enjoy while you can and just...
Sets you free. That is always...
Because it's 6 o'clock, and this is around the time I'm normally live at nighttime, so...
And everywhere a fact. And the longer you delay doing that, the more horrible the consequences of your lies. So let's hope that tonight, with this conversation with Joe Kent, is the beginning of the long overdue truth-telling, which is the only thing that will save this country. And one final note about Joe Kent.
W. Tucker for doing this interview.
Who I spent the last 24 hours with. Joe Kent's resume hardly needs explanation because
facts, bro, is a patriot.
Everyone is aware this is a man who deployed on 11 combat missions.
Stupid motherfuckers like Mark Levin try to, undermine this guy's service to the country.
To the global war on terror. This is sort of the perfect representation of the GWAT generation. This is one of those guys we often celebrate, but too rarely hear from, who we sent out to fight the so-called war on terror that began on 9/11. And it's an entire generation of men who look and sound, for the most part, very much like Joe Kent. So the implication, of course, he doesn't care about security or he's soft on Iran. Joe Kent spent, well, the majority of his 20s and 30s fighting Iranian proxies and watching his friends get killed by them. So this is someone who's actually earned the right to speak about Iran and the war on terror. And of course, he was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. So he's thought a lot about terrorism in this country and the blowback from events like this. And we're going to ask him about that as well. But the other thing to notice about Joe Kent, and it may be his defining factor, is that he doesn't slander anyone. His resignation letter was not an attack on Donald Trump. It wasn't a promise to write a tell-all memoir about what he saw on the inside or to aggrandize himself or to get a job on a TV show or sell something. I asked him at dinner last night, what are your plans? None. He did this purely because he believes, as he'll explain in a second, this is the only way to save the United States from certain disaster. Tell the truth.
Yep.
Air the secrets. Be honest for once in decades about what is actually happening, things that everybody who lives here suspects are happening. In some cases, we're probably wrong. We've come to the wrong conclusions. That's okay. Tell us what actually happened. Tell us why you did this. And let's reorient this country where it should be, which is around its own citizens. Make the decisions that you make based on one criterion. Is this good for my people or not? In the way that a father would lead his family or an officer would lead his troops.
Smash that like button for me, guys. We're on YouTube. You guys are getting an exclusive here. We're going to watch the Tucker and Joe Kent interview, which honestly, you guys should join the Tucker Carlson Network. I support Tucker. I just bought a year membership for his program, which is what this is on. It's paywalled, but that's fine. He's probably going to drop it tomorrow or so. So shout out to Tucker. You guys are watching it here. So like the goddamn video, especially on JTube.
Country, period. And as you listen to him speak, ask yourself, is this a man who's working for Hezbollah or is an egomaniac or a leaker? Or is this a man who says very little when he has nothing to say, who speaks straightforwardly and with honesty, self-evident honesty? Is this a man of dignity and
Bro's name is Abba the Milk Cow. That's funny.
Decency. Is this a man that America once had a lot of? Is this a man who was once, in effect, the American archetype, the guy you looked up to, the guy you wanted your son to be? Whether you agree with him or not, maybe you're reaching completely different conclusions. But as you listen to him speak, ask yourself, is this the kind of person who makes me proud to be a fellow American? Because it's really a referendum on us. If we can't see that Joe Kent, whatever you think of his opinions, is the kind of man this country should be producing and should be elevating and should be proud of, if we can't see that, then we've failed the test and we've lost. But judge for yourself. Here's Joe Kent. Joe, thanks a lot for joining us. I appreciate this. So I want to go through the letter that you sent yesterday as you resigned as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, and basically through the big points and give you a chance to explain them. You've been spoken for quite a bit over the last 24 hours, so I think it'd be really helpful to all of us if you would speak for yourself and flesh out some of these points. I'm just going to read the first one. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran.
This would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
So basically he asked him, what do you mean by, what do you mean exactly by Iran being not being a threat? This dude, SM Gaines, is lying in the chat, says Myron's uncle has connections to the RSF and he always backs terror in general. No, you retard. The RSF tried to kill my uncle, you stupid fuck. Now enjoy the shadow realm, you fucking retard. The fuck out of my chat, dumbass. The RSF tried to kill my uncle, you stupid motherfucker.
Ask you to pause, and so
Guys, for those of you that are saying OSS is down, just come on over on Kick. Come on over on Kick. I'm going to do something special for you guys tonight. I'm going to go back. I'll come back online for you guys on OSS, and we'll do something tonight.
I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time, and then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to
just refresh your page and you'll probably be fine, chat.
Understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to
just refresh.
Stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining, as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so that is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there, and he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. Now, I think there's a potential there where we could have done several different things. We could have simply said to the Israelis, no, you will not. And if you do, then we will take something away from you. I think that it's fine that we offer defense to Israel. But when we're providing the means for their defense, we get to dictate the terms of when they go on the offensive. Otherwise, they stand to lose that relationship. And the Israelis felt emboldened that no matter what they did, no matter what situation they put us in, that they could.
Big Boss, thank you very much. Appreciate you, brother.
Go ahead and take this action, and we would just have to react. And so that speaks to that relationship. But also, it just shows that there was a lobby pushing for us to go to war. I know we'll get into that later on in the statement, but we had a real potential, I think, knowing what we know of the Iranians and how they react, and in particular, how they react to President Trump's leadership. The Iranians, under President Trump's leadership, especially in his second term, they have shown that they take a very calculated approach to the escalation ladder. For instance, in the lead up to the 12-day war before Midnight Hammer, the Iranians didn't attack us. They were engaged in negotiations with us. When President Trump came back into office, they stopped their proxies who were attacking us under the Biden administration because they knew Biden was weak. They stopped their proxies from attacking us as well. So they knew President Trump was someone who wanted to negotiate, but more importantly, they knew that President Trump was not someone to mess with because he killed Qasem Soleimani, he killed Abu Mahdi Mohandas, he had defeated ISIS. They knew that President Trump was a man of action. He is militarily strong, and so they said, before we take an action, we need to make sure that it's calculated. So I think in this scenario, even if the Israelis told us we're going to strike on this date at this time, and we didn't, try to negotiate with the Israelis and say, hey, we'll take something away from them, I think we still could have back-channeled to the Iranians and said, hey, if something happens here in the next couple of days, it's not us. We're still serious about negotiations, and we don't want to escalate this because it's well known what the Iranians' plans were. We knew that they were going to hit potentially our bases in the region, potentially our allies. We knew about the Straits of Hormuz.
They said they were going to do it.
These things I think were fairly well known.
And the Houthis' ability to close the Red Sea, which they've not yet done, but which would be catastrophic to the world.
And that's going to be the next step, by the way, is closing the Red Sea. That's coming next.
So, but for the purpose of explaining your position or fleshing it out more so people can understand it, because
Cake and locals are not down, retards. Refresh the page.
You're the most high-profile resignation by far in a long time, and there's a lot of commentary on this. And I kind of took a quick trip through it this afternoon, and one of the consistent themes is, well, I mean, of course, there's a lot of slander, which we can talk about, but the substantive attack on you, and it is an attack or refutation of your letter, is that, well, actually, Joe Kent was totally for using military action. He supported the Soleimani killing, for example. He seemed fine with the 12-day war, for example. So he doesn't have a problem on principle with an engagement with Iran. You're saying what to that? What's your response?
Well, I have no compunction about really fighting anybody who threatens our country, and the Iranians have posed a threat in the past, and the Iranians have a way of threatening America. They have the capability, and we always talk in the intelligence circles about capability and intent, what your enemy is capable of doing and what they actually want to do. And again, back to the data that we have on the Iranians, they used the escalation ladder. We saw that deliberately during the 12-day war. When they struck back after Midnight Hammer, it was very deliberate. They fired an equal
and they notified what time, how many rockets, everything.
Amount of missiles as we dropped bombs on the nuclear facilities, and they basically hit a part of a base in Qatar that they knew we didn't have any troops on.
Yes.
They didn't want to escalate any further than we were willing to go.
Here's something that no one wants to ever admit about the Iranians. The Iranians are extremely measured and calculated in their responses. Okay? No one likes to admit this, but that's the truth. Yes, I know Locals doesn't have audio, bro. Watch on Kick, okay? Or refresh the page on Locals, and it'll be fine. Okay? You're being annoying now.
But also, the Iranians, when they pose a threat to us, they usually do it with their proxies. And if their proxies stick their heads up and their proxies come after us, this is basically the Trump doctrine, we hammer them and we hammer their high-profile leaders. Qasem Soleimani was highly effective and highly revered in Iran because the previous presidents, prior to President Trump, Obama and Bush, let Qasem Soleimani run around, raise proxy armies, kill Americans, and no one ever did anything to him. President Trump rightfully killed Qasem Soleimani. We got his deputy, Abu.
I don't know about that. That was a major escalation. And quite frankly, the proxies that they talk about, the Iranians were not the ones that built up the IEDs that blew up soldiers in Iraq. That was Al-Qaeda. That's a common lie that's been debunked a million times.
Mahdi Mohandas, who had American blood in his hands, took them off the battlefield. But then President Trump stopped. He took those two key players off the battlefield And he said, I'm not going to further escalate with Iran unless you escalate with us. No.
Well, he also took them off the, he also put them on the Foreign Terrorist Organization list, FTO list. He, reimposed higher sanctions, killed Soleimani, pulled out of the JCPOA. These were all very significant escalations. Maybe not militarily, but economically, these were huge.
Knowing that if we struck Iran and we truly struck the regime, that would only strengthen the regime. So then President Trump did something that's incredibly smart, used that decisive military action, but then he coupled it with an economic package of sanctions, maximum pressure.
Yeah, that wasn't good. That was escalation. That's the problem.
Sanctions. And we can debate whether or not we should be using sanctions as the prime reserve currency holder or whatever, but he pressured the Iranians economically after punching them in the mouth and showing that, hey, I won't take this. I'm not Obama. I'm not Bush. If you cross a line, I will come after you. But then he really put the pressure on them economically. And if you look at the effect of the economic sanctions, that's what got the Iranian people on the streets actually protesting against the Ayatollah's government, which is ostensibly what we would like. We would like to see a bottom-up regime change where we get rid of the Ayatollah, but it's the will of the people, and they have a new successful government that's stable that we can deal with. The one way to throw that all out the window, and this isn't just Joe Kent's opinion, many scholars, and I think a lot of intelligence assessments have been written about this too, I know for a fact they have, is that if we struck the regime, it would only strengthen it. And that's not...
Boom. I told y'all. And everyone's over here, Myron, you like Iran. No, I told you guys striking the Ayatollah would be fucking retarded. I told y'all. And here's the number 2 guy in the intelligence community telling you exactly what I fucking told you niggas.